The club haven't left us hungry this Sunday, my friends, as we welcome the announcement of Jorrel Hato at Chelsea Football Club, plus some big updates and insights on Xavi Simons, Garnacho, and a ton more. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hit that like button, and very quickly, my friends, if you're planning on making any purchases on the club mega store right now, there is a new collection that you guys might be interested in. Graphic tees. The text looks kind of cool. Bit of a different, unusual product from the club this time, but if this is your vibe, if this is your style, because I could see you guys rocking this in a few ways, don't forget to use my affiliate link in the card above and description below. And if you do, use Nini10 at checkout to get a full 10% off your final order. So we start things with the first report, my friends, as we say welcome to Chelsea Football Club, Jorrel Hato. And I think it's best that we go straight to the club website to learn some of the first words from our new signing. Now, of course, as Hato says, I'm very excited. I'm so happy to be here. I thought a lot about my future and I wanted to take the next step in my career. Chelsea is the best place for me to do so. I am very happy. Of course, born in Rotterdam. It's been a mad footballing journey for him. Quickly progressed through the Ajax youth ranks and made his first team debut at 16 years old. You know, he's been captaining the youth teams across many divisions as well too. And he became the youngest captain in Ajax history at 17 years old, which is absolutely insane. So not only does he have the football qualities and the defensive IQ, but personality-wise, adding more budding leaders and figures like this to our squad across all positions is the best thing for this club's long-term future. So I am fully here for this. So that is great to see. But moving on now to his first official interview. Yeah, we learned some interesting things here. He says after signing for us, it feels strange to leave everybody in Holland, of course. But for me, it is a new journey with new people and a new culture, a new team, new competitions as well. So as he looks down on the golden world champions crest on the shirt, you'll probably get bored of it because it's going to be on our shirt for the next 4 years. What an honor to have something like that. As he says, I was really thinking about my future and this is what I wanted. You know, I think I will be a good fit for the way Chelsea are playing. So I was sure about taking my step to Chelsea, which makes the most sense, you guys, because we see him as competition to Cucurella. And I think based on how he plays, I think he probably really complements this inverted role because he does have that license to go forward. His manager last season, and Farioli, did take some convincing to Hato and his team to share his thoughts and opinions that he felt like the left back position could be the best position for him to go on to becoming like a truly elite player. I think we share the same type of vision, which I'm fully here for, which I fully endorse, and I think he's making the right career move because when you're signing for us with your position open tactically like this at the age you're at, you got to take it with both hands instead of going somewhere else and playing outside of your best qualities and your best instincts, right? But to end things with the interview, he goes on to say that for sure it was a big decision. I played 7 years at Ajax, and for me it was home. The people, players, coaches, culture. So it was not easy to leave, but my feeling was that at this moment, I need to make a step to the biggest club and the biggest competitions. And for me, this was the right decision at the right time. Love that from Jorrel Hato, very ambitious man. It was a big decision for over 5 years. I traveled from Rotterdam to Amsterdam every day until I moved house to Amsterdam when I was 18. So for 5 years, I've traveled there to play with Ajax. Ajax arranged transport for me until I was 13 or 14. And after that, I went on to train. So, you know, he's had a lot of responsibilities on him. He's used to, you know, leaving the comfort of his environment and home for a very young age. So it's nice that he has this type of maturity now to make the move to a new country. Still as a teenager, only 19 years old. Let's not forget how young that is in footballing terms. So yeah, I'm really optimistic to see how he integrates now at the club and with his new teammates. As he says, I wasn't hoping I would do it. I was certain. I knew. I just thought I will. And I had a lot of trust in myself, even at that age. So I thought to myself, okay, when I'm 18 or 19, I will be a first team player. And I think what helps is that he has the physiology, of course, to play at this level, which is one of the key things you need if you want to start getting integrated really early on in your young career. It's a very in-depth article. I suggest you guys also use the club website yourselves to kind of fully just like soak in everything that you're reading. At the time, my head was only with Ajax. I wanted to make my debut, to play a lot of games. Now we are there 3 years later. I'm 19. I've already played more than 100 games for Ajax, so I have a lot of experience. This was the right time to make a big step, to come to the Premier League, to come to Chelsea, and now I am here. Yeah, you guys. A few more quotes from Jorrel Hato before I move on. He discussed how quickly it was making the step up, of course. A couple of months after saying that I made my debut. Then after that, I became a starter for the first team. But I was ambitious and I knew what I wanted, and I went for it. At the time, it didn't feel like it was happening quickly, but now, when I look back, everything really went quick. At that age, you don't think about it like that. You're just kind of in the motions, right? I started in the under-18s, and in November was my debut for the Jong Ajax, and then in January was my first team debut. I was in the starting 11, I think by March, and started the cup final in April. So Jorrel Hato is synonymous with making big step-ups, but not only just making the step up quickly, he's not drowning in these environments. He backs himself, he backs his qualities, and he knows that he is good for that level. So I'm loving the ambition from this kid. Absolutely love it. I think we should temper our expectations. He needs to acclimatize to the Premier League. He still has to grow into his body. You're not supposed to be world-class defensively at 19 years old, but in terms of what he does as a complete player offensively, on the ball, you know, there's big qualities here, and he can learn so much from Cucurella and Maresca and the rest of his teammates. So welcome to Chelsea Football Club, Jorrel Hato. Share your thoughts and opinions on how you're feeling about this, my friends. But now, let's discuss the next story involving Tyrique George. Now, this is a really interesting development coming out right now. But in the meantime, we are learning from Romano. Something I predicted. Leipzig have asked us about Tyrique George during talks for Xavi Simons. Separate topic and not in the same deal, but George has attracted interest from the Bundesliga and Leipzig. He's also attracted interest from Premier League clubs. We don't know who they are, but he's also attracted interest from Serie A clubs. But at the meantime, the Bundesliga clubs, and those two clubs are obviously Leipzig and Borussia Mönchengladbach, have made the most intense contact for the player and are expressing the most interest for his services. Now, it was pretty interesting earlier today. Romano had a little bit of a tiny type of mare. Obviously, his first tweet suggested that Tyrique George can leave Chelsea this month, with clubs showing an interest to sign him. Obviously, understand permanent move also possible. We prefer to keep Tyrique George, but accept his desire for regular football. And that quickly got edited to become Tyrique George does want to leave this month due to reduced game time that he's seen. Now, I think it's a little bit funny that sometimes the club maybe care too much about like optics, but at the same time, is that us being nerdy fans looking into too much detail that isn't really there, and maybe in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter as much? Because if we're keeping things brutally real, I think it's quite realistic to assume that Tyrique George will feel like he does want to leave now, because the pathway to the first team just isn't there anymore. So I'm not going to be too cynical around Romano editing his tweet. I think maybe he's just contextually now just making sense of this situation a lot more, right? I think for Tyrique George, going to Leipzig could be a superb move, and hopefully this will be separate deals. We know that we need to sell some of our A-list squad players from the Conference League squads, because we need to generate that type of money specifically for UEFA to qualify, of course, for like their own personal FFP, if we hope to register our new signings for the Champions League. So with Tyrique George being a Chelsea Youth Player of the Year winner, You know, he's an illustrious company alongside your Gallaghers, your Mounts, your Reece Jameses, your Tamoris, Hudson-Odoi, Livramento, so many talents, so many players that have gone for big money. Even Lewis Hall's, for God's sake. Look at the amount of money Newcastle paid for Lewis Hall, like nearly 30 million. So for Tyrique George, bare minimum I want for him is 20 million. But I feel like 25 mil would be fair for someone of his talent and someone with his potential as well. You know, last season was a really good educational season with Tyrique. He played quite a few games, of course, 20 appearances altogether. Not all starts, a handful were, mostly were sub appearances. He only got 253 minutes, which in the grand scheme of things is like what 3 full 90-minute games. Not that much, but he did get 3 goals. He got 1 assist, and one of the moments he produced for us last season, honestly, it helped put us on the map, you guys. It really was like sensational, that goal that he scored against Fulham. Superb stuff from Tyrique. I want to just like put the clip there just to do full justice because yeah, you know, Tyrique George's goal against Fulham has to be seen and has to be remembered. So give me a sec to just put this on screen, you guys. But I think that moment against Fulham was one of the most pivotal moments in 2025 for us, yeah? That was the turning point. He gave us hope with that superb individual effort that he scored for that equalising goal. And the rest was history. You know, we had the confidence to turn that game around and win it. We had the confidence then to end the season strong, securing top 4. And that then gave us the confidence to win the Conference League. And then the confidence to win the Club World Cup, where we can say we are world champions now for the next 4 years. So this is the beauty of this sport. Moments can really just capture so much you can ever really possibly imagine. And Tyrique George, of course, will be valued for his contribution that he did make. But I think the reality simply is, man, at the moment, that pathway to the first team just is not there. And obviously, when you're making moves for Xavi Simons and now Alejandro Garnacho, there are 2 roles that are now out for Tyrique George. He could have played on the left, which he has done, but I think his best position is actually in the Xavi Simons role as the attacking mid, the guy that's linking the midfield in the attack, because in these areas, as we got slight glimpses of near the end of the season, where he bagged goals against Legia Warsaw, goals against Fulham, goals in the Club World Cup, he can influence the game from those central positions. And as that attacking mid, you know, you have license to ghost into the box at times, take shots off either foot outside the box, drive and carry, link the play, slot runners in behind. And I feel like this right now would be the best move for him now, to go to an RB Leipzig, you know. Simons, what's his name, Nkunku, who was that Swedish guy they had, who was at Leipzig with the blonde hair that I can't remember the top of my head right now, but they've been known for taking attacking mids and putting them on and just like really just promoting the hell out of these guys. And I think if Tyrique secures an RB loan, not only are you playing your best position, you're going to a club that have one of the best training grounds in Europe, renowned for taking youth players to the next level. I think this would be an amazing move for him. And I think that Leipzig will have to pay us good money. This is not a 5, 10, 15 mil player. This is 25 mil minimum, in my opinion. And that has to be respected. And that has to be reflected as well, too. I guess there could be interesting conversations, which you guys should definitely have below right now, in regards to whether we are doing a disservice to the academy. At the moment, maybe Action Pong will be the only one to really remain here. Tyrique George did show in his cameos last season that he had the qualities to play with the team. Could he have maybe been backed a bit more, considering the talents that we have here right now? You know, reinvesting at some Garnachos, etc., etc. Is that the way forward? I just want to promote these types of questions to hear your opinions and how you're feeling about this right now. So that is everything on Tyrique George and how he could possibly help us secure the services of Xavi Simons. So now let's move on to discussing one of the latest reports coming out right now. And my friends, let's talk Alejandro Garnacho. Apologies for that. But a lot's been going down right now. Last night, we know that Garnacho liked a Romano tweet on Instagram, revealing our plans to sign both himself and Xavi Simons before the window ends. We do have more context surfacing around what is going on right now. Of course, Amarim revealed his thoughts to Garnacho. You know, he's a really talented boy, but sometimes things just don't work out. You can't explain specifically what it is. It's clear he wants a different thing with a different leadership. As we know, Garnacho has given his total priority on signing for us. There's no negotiations yet at this point in time. Garnacho has rejected interest from every other single club in Europe. He only wants to stay in the Prem and sign for us. And we've told Garnacho that he must be patient and wait, because we need to sell players first. That is key in ensuring that his signing gets made. So let's watch this space. Hypothetically, could maybe Nkunku's or Nico's, you know, especially if United miss out on signing Sechko, if he maybe picks Newcastle or decides to remain at RB Leipzig, could they potentially be these like future like openings in these types of deals that could maybe ensure that United are getting someone from us, and we're also then getting Garnacho at a reduced fee? We know that we don't want to pay more than 30 million, but I feel like really we don't want to pay over 40 million. I think anything under maybe 30 mil plus add-ons and maybe like future profit sell-on clauses could be the key things in ensuring this deal does go down for Garnacho. So that's definitely one to watch out for. But you know, before I move on with the story, I want to have another conversation. I just like having these convos because you guys, you know, I know you guys are football nerds like myself, man. And I like you guys to like use your footballing brain muscles and have these conversations in my comment section. And, you know, I want to start off by maybe bringing up the comparison between Hudson-Odoi and Christian Pulisic, where, you know, we had two wonder kids at the time fighting it out for one position down the left-hand side. But ultimately, none of them were failures, but none of them, like, that strategy wasn't a success where one of them became the star and the world-class guy. That wasn't the case. I'll be repeating the same thing potentially with Gittins and Garnacho fighting it out for one position, because also see it like this, with Simons also being a potential signing, there are going to be many times in the season where you'll probably imagine Cucurella, Jorrel Hato providing the overlapping width down the left-hand side to ensure that Simons and Palmer can play centrally together. That could happen quite a bit at times, especially as like a big game tactic. That would not surprise me. And that just communicates that maybe only a Garnacho or Gittins, only one of these guys will come on as like a substitute. How many minutes can be equally distributed between these two young guys who come at a similar age, and who need that type of experience now to go to the next level? Is it doing the most at the moment? How are you guys feeling about something like that? You know, I feel like Esteval is probably the best teen wing out of all these guys at the moment. He'll get a ton of game time because this guy is a superb player. Palmer, of course, priority. Neto will be priority. Simons will be priority. Delap, Joao Pedro. How often are we going to necessarily use that left wing at times when you've got like overlapping fullbacks and Gustos and Cuckoos and stuff like that? Now, in my opinion, you know, I don't want to create like a negative type of, you know, horror story, but it is going to be interesting to see what we do, right? Because we also have Kenda arriving next season. Now, the argument could be, I guess, maybe Neto is definitely out the door for next season once Kenda arrives. But it is going to be really fascinating to see this experiment of having like 4 young wingers fighting it out for like a handful of positions, and, you know, seeing how they all develop equally. Will some kind of develop even more and kind of just like run away from the rest of the pack? Do all that development get affected a little bit? I'm really curious to know how this situation is going to be navigated. I don't want to sound like I'm being pessimistic and negative, but I don't want to also act like oh, this just makes complete sense. They're all going to get game time, blah, blah, blah. Because with all these Simons guys and Garnachos coming through, it does mean that, how often are we going to see maybe your Andre Santoses getting game time in midfield? Now, I think one thing I'm predicting next season, which I'm like 110% confident on, is that Maresca will use so many different formations and lineups and subs, depending on who we're playing against. So you're going to see lots of interesting things that you're not going to expect, right? I also think that he's going to use players across multiple positions, because one thing everyone keeps forgetting is that last season, man, guys play down the left and the right equally. Madueke, Neto, even Cole Palmer, Sancho. So I still think like your Gittins and your Estevals and Garnachos will be played on the left and right, depending on the need in the game, right? But we are hoarding quite a lot of talent at a very pivotal age where their development is key. They do need to play games, and their development can't be affected. I guess from a financial point of view, we'll be safeguarded, of course, because if someone flops, then naturally then we can just, quickly cash in on them ASAP, lose no value, and then reinvest those funds elsewhere. Let's see how it goes. But I do think that there's a lot of talent that we have to be very careful of. And knowing how this game normally works, when you find a first team that is really consistent playing together, it's not often you're disrupting that just to force minutes so other guys can develop right. So, yeah, maybe it's like a lot of, I don't know, what's the right word I'm trying to look for? I definitely have to think more about what I'm saying, and I'll definitely do that in future videos for sure. But I just kind of want to like spitball with you guys, gauge how you're feeling, and kind of just like learn from you guys as well, which I do like to do from the comment section. So I don't like to speak from like a position of authority all the time. I like to feel like I'm that guy for like-minded football fans like ourselves to kind of have like a platform and environment to come to and talk our ball. So yeah, how do you think we can make sense of all these wingers and youth players from next season? Share your thoughts and opinions below, my friends. So on that note, I'm going to wrap things up now, keep things moving. Hope you guys enjoy. Hit that like button, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow with more videos. Love.